All right. Well, my name is Ted Gardner, and I'm an interviewer for the Public Library of Cincinnati and Hamilton County. I'm interviewing an old friend, John Luecke Jr., and I knew Senior. This is Friday, November the 17th, 2006, and we're at the Green Township Library, which you know. And our camera operator today is Maria Hunt, and she's wonderful. And also present today is memorabilia. You have brought us, as you say, a dog and pony show, and we're very appreciative of that, Luck, because we called him Luck for years and years, as we called his dad Luck. The situation here is on a beautiful sunny morning that we have the opportunity to talk with a very important person, a person who served his country nobly, bravely, and loyally, and in World War II. What I like to do, Luck, is to go back a little bit and talk about where you grew up, where you went to school, and then we'll work into how you got into the Army and World War II. Where were you born?
I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio,
Okay.
at Bethesda Hospital.
Bethesda Hospital, old Bethesda base.
Yes,
Yeah.
the original one.
Yeah, on Oak Street there,
Yes.
sure. Well then, where did you go to elementary school?
Robert D. Johnson. He was named after a war hero in World War I
Oh, where's that school located?
in Fort Thomas.
Oh, in Fort Thomas. Well, that's right. So you lived in Fort Thomas.
Yes.
Yeah. And then after elementary and into high school, where'd you go to high school?
High school, I went to Highlands High School.
Oh my gosh,
I
a
was-
bluebird.
Bluebird. Well, we call them cake eaters too.
Cake eaters.
Yeah, they called us cake eaters.
I'll be darned.
But anyway,
That's
I
it.
was president of my senior class,
Mm-hmm.
and I was always proud of that.
I should say.
And underneath your high school picture is some sort of a statement. And my statement was, every man shall be thy friend.
Oh.
And I was sort of a compromise candidate for president. And I always thought that was a high compliment.
I should say.
And I try to live my life accordingly.
Well, you certainly have. My goodness, you've been a great example of not only a fine person, but Americanism and patriotism and dedication to education. And you've raised a wonderful family, a family of accomplished people. I know your son. I haven't met your daughters, but anyway. So Highlands. Did you play any sports at Highlands?
I played basketball,
Okay.
and that was my sport.
Yeah. Well, those were the days when we had the center jump.
That's
Remember
right.
that?
That's right.
I was the same way. And after every basket, every foul throw, you went back to the center and jumped
That's
all
right,
over
jumped
again.
over. That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Everything has changed.
Everything has changed, I should say. Well, then you were in the class of what, 39?
40.
40 at Highlands. And where did you go from there?
I went to Miami University in Oxford, Ohio,
Wow, let's see.
and I got, maybe I'm getting ahead of you, but I in my junior year, I joined the ASTP, the Army Specialized Training Program,
Right.
and I didn't get to complete my senior year until after the war.
Mm-hmm.
And we, one by one, we would come to dinner at the ASE house, and we'd get a phone call, somebody, and one by one, they called all these ASTP people.
How about that? Yeah, those were very exciting times, and as the war clouds were forming, particularly in Europe, very seriously, My goodness, December the 7th, 1941. You were in college then, right?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. And the involvement of the United States swept the country, of course. The spirit, you remember the spirit of America at that time. We had a president who was very controversial, but also dedicated to winning. And I think that this. How did you feel about the spirit at that time?
Well, the spirit was high. I think we knew we had to go after, enter the war, and get rid of this dictator Hitler.
Absolutely.
Now, this tells the story about Marshall, who instituted the ASTP.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to have a lot of college men trained in mechanical and other types of engineering. And so that's why he offered college students the chance to go to further their education, and they would need them after the war.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was really looking ahead, and as we all know, that was one of the great strengthening factors of our country.
Yes,
Men and women being able to get a college education.
that's right.
And it certainly was well deserved. The Did you have any particular heroes at that time? Any American
Heroes at that time? No, I can't recall. There must have been some, but
Mm-hmm.
I just did my duty when I was called.
Right.
And I went to the University of Nebraska. That's where they. No, first of all, I took basic training at Fort Riley,
Kansas. Wow.
Yes, and that was the hottest place I've ever been. Joe Louis, the boxer, was there,
Mm-hmm.
and we would go see him box. That was his contribution to the war, because
Right.
he was very popular, and everybody wanted to be a boxer like Joe Louis.
Sure.
So I don't think that was a particular hero of mine, but at Fort Riley, it got so hot there. One day we were on parade, and everybody was at parade rest with their bayonets fixed, and one by one the men fainted,
Oh, good.
and the bayonet came right behind my ear, almost sheared my ear off.
For heaven's sake.
And after that, they were very generous, because they said, if the temperature gets over 100, we will not have a parade. That was a concession the Army made.
Wow. Oh my goodness, that's an unusual experience. And of course, you were from Ohio, and out there in Kansas, they think of Ohio as way back east.
Yeah, that's right, way back east.
And did you make any particular friends there at Riley?
Yes, we did. We were. Then we went. We were after our basic training. Then they shipped us to various universities, and our university was the Cornhusker State
Of course.
University of Nebraska, and I was there for about 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And peculiar incident there was that we were all training, in our various talents, and I got a sore throat. They didn't have any hospital facilities, so they shipped me to the Lincoln Hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and I was there about a week.
Mm-hmm.
During that week, our grades were sent into Washington, and the war was getting more demanding.
Right.
So they had to send over more men. So the top third, of which I was a part, got sent to Oak Ridge, Tennessee to work on the atomic bomb.
Oh. Ooh.
Now the bottom 2/3, due to the fact that my grades were sent to Washington, is incomplete. I didn't get to go there.
Mm-hmm.
I went directly to the infantry.
Oh my goodness.
So a sore throat changed my life.
Isn't that interesting? Good heavens.
Now, there's one caveat about Oak Ridge, Tennessee. At a reunion of our division, I was bemoaning the fact that I didn't get to go to Oak Ridge, and he said, "You were lucky." He said, "A lot of those boys were exposed to radiation and got cancer and died."
Oh,
So he said, "You were lucky and didn't know it." So
isn't that?
yeah,
How about that? What an interesting twist of fate, as you say.
that's right.
How your life was changed by being sick for a week.
Yeah, and so then we went from Lincoln, Nebraska, directly to the infantry because the war was getting pretty
Sure.
scared there.
Well,
So Marshall had to see his plan sort of destroyed, and
Broken up. Yeah.
we went into the down in the Louisiana and trained with the 44th Division.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of Cincinnati boys in that division. They originated in Washington, D.C., and we had a quick education on what it means to be in the infantry. And so it wasn't too long before we were shipped overseas, and we were not really too ready for combat.
Mm-hmm.
So we, from there, we went up to, back to training, and then we went overseas, and we went by a route on a train, and we went through Canada all the way across, and we came through Cincinnati. And I was able to call my father, and Remeyer Lumber Company was right behind the Union Terminal.
Absolutely.
And at 6 o'clock in the morning, I told him we were going to go through Cincinnati. Well, he was there, and he got to say goodbye to me.
Oh.
So that was one thrill I got.
I should say.
So then we went to the coast, and we went on a ship. Took 10 days to get overseas, and the Atlantic Ocean was the smoothest that the personnel of that ship had ever seen. It was just perfect for 10 days, and you know how rough it can get.
Oh, the North Atlantic can be
So
just
we
terrible.
landed at Cherbourg,
France.
France, 200 days after D-Day. 200
Okay.
days, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit of irony here. My father was in World War I.
Right.
He landed at Le Havre,
Mm-hmm.
and he left by way of Cherbourg. We landed at Cherbourg and left by Le Havre
Oh, for heaven's
to England. So our patterns followed each other, just a little bit separate.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, because that's a coincidence.
Well, I should say.
That was another important facet in my life.
Well, I should say, and I can just picture your dad down there to see you.
Yeah.
Coming through on the train and embracing you, and then waving goodbye to you.
That's right.
Oh, that was tough. I
Yeah.
had that experience with my parents too.
And so then we slowly went through the hedgerows and everything, and there were still mines and stuff that we had to be careful of.
I should say. Now, tell me about the 44th. Was that primarily Ohio?
No, that was people from all over. You
All
talk about diversification. We had Italians, every nationality you want to talk
Mhm,
about.
mhm.
And I naturally, I told you the story that I became a machine gun squad because the supply sergeant passed the overseas physical. But I
Right.
still had understudied him.
Mhm.
After the war was over, I became a supply sergeant, and my duty was to pack up the whole division, or the whole 114th Infantry, especially Company M, and we got rough green lumber. It was heavy as everything. We made crates,
Mhm.
shipped all our records back to the United States
Mhm.
because our division was destined to be the first, one of the first divisions to go into Japanese harbor.
Occupation.
Yes,
Oh, for heaven's sake.
and I read up on this, and it said that after 3 days, they would withdraw us and put in fresh men because our division, everybody would practically be killed or wounded.
Mhm.
So Harry Truman dropping the atomic bomb
Absolutely.
saved my life.
Absolutely.
I figured that.
Oh, I did
So
too.
Harry Truman was a hero in my mind.
Absolutely.
I'm
Well,
not a Democrat, but I would have voted for Harry because he had no nonsense.
that's right.
The buck stops here.
That is exactly right.
Yeah.
Harry was a very strong personality, and he had grown up as a son of the soil, so to speak.
That's
you
right.
know, like you had and like I had,
That's right.
and he had that deep passion for the country and also for making decisions.
That's right.
And then being able to follow through and be a leader.
Yes.
Well, now let's go back a little bit. Here you are in the Company M of the 114th Regiment of the 44th Division, right?
Right.
Okay. There you are in France, and you're working your way through the hedgerows. Uh, was it northern France that you moved through?
Well,
Did you get into the
we moved to
Ardennes?
southern. We went right into Paris.
Oh,
Troops ahead of us had captured Paris.
yeah, May of '44.
Yes, but our destiny was to go through Paris, and it was freed. And we went down to a community near Nancy, France.
Mm-hmm.
And that name Nancy becomes significant. We went into combat in a town called Lunaville,
I've heard of that.
and the folks back home never got any information where we were. It was everything was top secret.
Oh, yes.
But I wrote letters back to my family, and in one of the letters I said, "How is the Remar girl?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "How is the Elam girl going and doing?" Because I had dated a person called Nancy Elam.
Yeah,
And I mentioned
Nancy's-
every person that I could think of whose name began with Nancy. And my father caught that, and he says, "I know right where he is. He's down in here." And Nancy was a long time before it got any publicity.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, in those days, and I remember well, your letters were censored.
Oh, yeah.
And if you wrote anything at all that would
they
tip
tossed it out.
off,
That's right.
they'd black it out right away.
That's right.
And so you were very clever about that, Luck. That was wonderful. Well, another thing, of course, I remember about you is that you were affectionately called June
June, yes.
because you're a junior.
That's right.
That's right. Now, did you have siblings? Did you have brothers and
Oh, yes,
sisters?
I had a brother, Bob, and a sister, Marjorie.
Oh, my goodness. That's
And,
nice.
and Marjorie's husband, Herb, was with the 3rd Marines.
Oh.
He was all ready to go. He was already in the Philippines.
Yeah.
My friend Jim Hayter,
Yeah.
Was-
Hardware.
he was over in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to be involved in this invasion. invasion.
Well, I remember that so well because I was certainly on the list to be sent back out to the Pacific
Yes.
from California.
They call it redeployment. I mean, you know,
Redeployment.
imagine fighting 208 days over in England, and then to know that your fate's going to be to go into, and that's one thing that Harry Truman made the decision.
Yeah.
That was one decision that really impressed me.
Yes.
He said, they said, what? He said, what is my options? I said, Mr. Truman, we can drop the atomic bomb. It's ready to go. The one that was developed at Oak Ridge.
Right.
And he said, or we can send in all these troops.
Hmm.
My brother was in the mule packers.
Oh my goodness.
And I went to visit him out in Fort Sill, Kansas.
Uh-huh.
And Bob had a mule, and he had to keep that mule all brushed and everything.
For heaven's sake.
They were going to fly the mule packers into the mountains. They were going to work their way forward, and all our troops were going in to take Japan.
Yeah.
And millions, it's estimated that 2 million Americans and 2 million Japanese soldiers would be killed in that effort.
That's
And that was the
exactly-
decision that Mr. Truman had to make, and he made it to drop the bomb.
Well, that is a strong point that a lot of people today should be aware of. Those who protest on so-called Hiroshima Day and all that sort of thing, you know, don't really have an understanding of what was involved, what was ahead. And as you well know, you're a historian, you read history and you're very well read. The Japanese were so strongly dug in to their homeland islands. I mean, they were still manufacturing planes underground.
That's right.
Now, tell us some more about your experience in Europe. Going across, how far east did you get?
Well, our route was from Luneville. There's a funny story I've got to tell you about.
Good.
The first night we were committed and went into the front lines, we were in a foxhole, and we were nervous as all get out. And one of my machine gunners, he heard a noise, so he fired, and then we heard a moo. He had killed a cow.
Oh, good heavens.
Well, a fellow in our squad knew how to. He was a farmer, and he knew how to butcher a cow. So he got that cow and brought it back. And I never seen this before. You know, I was a city boy, but
Sure.
he skinned the cow, and we had steaks, and the rumor got around, and everybody was coming over. All the brass was coming over and said, "Hey, get us a steak," because we were eating K rations. No, not K rations. We were eating these C rations.
Sea rations.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
boy.
anyway, you said how far east? The path is in here. I think Pam's got a path in here. She's got
Mhm.
my career, and we went through the country, and we crossed the Rhine,
Mhm.
and then we went straight down to Austria. We ended up in Austria,
Oh,
and
okay, here we are. Here's Belgium, France.
yes.
Battle of attrition. Now, what do you mean by that?
What's that?
The battle of attrition.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, your daughter, being the erudite person that she is, put
Yeah.
that in there. Okay, so there, I can see that from Luneville down to Nancy,
Yeah.
and then into Austria, and Austria, of course, became what we know as part of Eastern Europe
Mm-hmm.
under the communist regime, and the the breakup of Germany. Where, how far east into Austria did you get?
We got down to a town called Luecke, and it's just across the border.
Okay.
And here's the irony of that. A fellow Rotarian from Pier and Port came to me one day and says, John, you ought to take this tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, why? He said, we're going down, well, she said, we're going down to a little town in Austria called Reuten. I said, wait a minute. She said, you probably never heard of it. I said, heard of it? That's where I ended my career. So we went on her tour.
How about that?
And I stood in the tour bus and gave him a tour, on the terrain that
Guided,
I covered.
sure.
That was another thrill I had
I
to do
should
that.
say. Now, was there a lot of destruction there?
Well, the town of Ulm, U-L-M,
Yeah,
was a beautiful town.
that's a famous town.
Yes.
Medieval town.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that was just leveled by our Air Force. I mean, we were trying to bring the war to an end, and it was devastated. I mean, rubble all around. I've got pictures of that.
Right.
I mean, we won't have time to show, but then we went through Ulm and, like I say, down into Austria and ended up in Reute.
Mm-hmm.
And we had about a month to spend there and recreation and stuff. And I have pictures of me rowing in the lake and doing all kind of stuff. So anyway, we got to rest for about a month, and then we were redeployed, and we drove all the way back the Autobahn and up and over and back into England. And we went.
How about that?
And then we went to up in Scotland and caught. It took us 10 days to come over.
Mm-hmm.
We were the first division to be on the Queen Elizabeth. And the Queen Elizabeth, there were still German subs out there, but the Queen Elizabeth was fast enough to dodge them, and they had sonar and everything.
Right.
So we made it back in 5 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Goodness sakes. Now, tell me about your being in combat. I know there's some stories there about you personally.
Well, there's a lot of stories that I don't want to discuss.
Okay, but I know you got 2 Purple Hearts?
Yeah, Purple Heart with a cluster and a Bronze Star.
Right.
Now, the Bronze Star was we hadn't had a hot meal for about a month, and we were about 2 miles away from the Germans, and I guess the food came and they strung it out, and we were going through the chow line, and I guess we were clicking our things. We were supposed to be quiet now. And all of a sudden, they started to send in mortar fire, and a lot of our men were wounded. And the job I admire so much is that the litter carriers.
Yes.
We rescued our men at any cost, and there wasn't enough litter covers, and I went out with another person and started hauling in these people who were wounded, and that's where I got the Bronze Star.
I'll be darned. Well,
The Purple Heart I got when we were cleaning up after the war. We would take these forays up into the mountains in beautiful places. And there was some Hitler youth. They were a product of these baby camps. They never knew who their mother or father was. And they were being trained by a wounded SSS trooper. And we were ambushed by machine gun fire. And I sent one of my men around to see what was going on, and here was all these Hitler youths firing at us.
My goodness.
So rather than a routine would be to toss a grenade and kill them all, but we made them surrender.
Good.
Meanwhile, I was hit in the elbow. Just not super.
A grazing.
Yeah.
Kind of a grazing.
But my
wound, but
50 caliber man on the Jeep, he was shot and wounded badly. In fact, I think he lost his arm.
oh my goodness.
But
Well,
And,
you-
we just felt sorry for these fellows, so
Oh, yeah.
we put the SS trooper on the front of the Jeep and
Mhm.
said, now, if there's any more of these up here, you're going to get it first.
Right.
So he dutifully sat on the front. Well, of course, not dutifully.
But
But
trying
anyway,
to calm people down.
And we never encountered any more. And the other Purple Heart I got was on New Year's Eve. The Germans counterattacked our division, and we had the high ground, and that's where the machine gunners were, and behind us was artillery.
Right.
They were down in the valley, and they were celebrating New Year's Eve. They were dressed in white sheets. There was snow on the ground, and they came up the hill, and they had our United States helmets on. So we had to hold our fire until we identified them.
Of course.
So they got halfway up this hill, and they said, "Happy New Year, you Yankee SOBs." And I said, "Wait a minute, that's the enemy." So all along our line, we gave the opened up, and then that night, on the 44th Division was stretched all along. I was during the Battle of the Bulge up north.
Mm-hmm.
We killed 2,500 men that night.
Good.
I mean, the whole division.
Yeah.
And that was ironic because I was shooting at people that had the same name. I met several people that were named Luecke.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Is that so?
And even when we went on our vacation in Berlin, I went down to get a stronger light bulb, and the fellow behind the desk says, "Well, I have an aunt with the same name."
For heaven's
And
sake.
he was probably some distant relative.
I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just sort of wandering around.
Well, that's very interesting, and I wanted you to open up on things like that because I know you have so many wonderful experiences and you have a great memory, and of course you have some supporting material.
Oh yeah. And all the letters, I couldn't believe it. What my mother
goodness.
has.
I
have so much literature from my mother, bless her heart.
Oh my goodness.
That
Yeah, let's show this. This is a wonderful thing here.
And as supply sergeant, I was in charge of all the supplies after the war.
Oh yes.
And we were only allowed to have one of everything,
Sure, okay.
one or two or three of everything. And they didn't care what you did with it, but you better not turn in more than what you had.
You're a lot.
So
right.
we had 2 flags. So I wrapped one of them up and took it home after the war.
Well,
Well, the fact is, we shipped it back to the United States, and when we unpacked, that's how I got possession of this.
Well, this is for those who will be looking at this recording of your great history. Of course, a lot of people will call it a flag, but it's really a burgee.
Yeah.
Because it's somewhat like the shape of the Ohio state flag, which is not a flag but a burgee.
Yeah.
Because it has that notch out of the corner of it.
We carried this on all our parades. Whenever we went on parade,
Very proud.
Company M had this in the parade.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were only allowed one of them, but we had 2, and I got this one.
Well, good for you. Now, what is this? What's this here?
That's the pouch that we rolled it up.
That you rolled it up and put it in that.
Yeah.
Now, did you? You're speaking of parades. Did you come back to a welcoming parade in the country and get to march down Fifth Avenue or anything like that?
No, we had our own parades after the war.
Uh-huh.
I think it was May the 8th, which is 3 days after my wife's birthday.
Uh-huh.
And of course, she was my sweetheart, and we corresponded, and
I should say.
she kept me going over there.
Well, let's put this down.
And,
Well, thank you for bringing that. That's a wonderful, wonderful souvenir. My goodness, that's just fantastic.
Now, let's see, that night, we didn't have communications like they have today.
Right.
Headquarters was about a mile from where we had our machine guns.
Mm-hmm.
And we communicated there when we had to string wire. And when the Germans were sending over their screaming memes, which they made a horrible sound. I mean, made it sick to your stomach. Mm. But they sent over artillery and interrupted that wire. So I had to go back with another squad member and go back and repair that.
Sure.
And we're crawling through the, back for a mile,
Right.
repairing that wire. Nowadays we have wireless. I mean, you can talk to your son over in Iraq.
Absolutely.
But we didn't have that pleasure. But anyway, one of these screaming memes came in, and boy, we hit the dirt.
Right.
And my friend was killed.
Oh.
And, good Lord spared my life. I mean, that was one of my dangerous experiences.
Right.
And I was wounded again, and that's when I got the cluster.
Right.
But his leg flew over my head.
Oh my goodness.
I don't like to talk about these things.
I know.
And that was one of my hairy experiences coming down. The other one, if you want another one, we took this town. The mayor came out to greet us. You never knew who was your friend.
Sure.
So he showed us where there were empty houses that we could fill it up in. We didn't get enough sleep, but we always had a guard out there. But this same mayor, he told the Germans we were in this town, and he came back and pointed wherever we were. They sent in some wagons with guns on them, everything, and started firing at ours. And we had bazookas. So the one was right in the corner, and behind it was the church. And toward the end of the war, I mean, everybody was pushed into service, so they were not as experienced as we were. So our bazooka team knocked out their
guns.
Yes. And I was upstairs in this building, and I was kind of peeking out the window to see what was out there. And all of a sudden, they had these burp guns, and they would make you sick to your stomach. Oh. And this burp gun went right through the window there, and I just, I was behind there peeping out. And man, that's another scary part. But our captain was in the textile industry in New York. Mm-hmm. Captain Estes. He was made a major after this episode. He was behind directing fire at these guys that were trying to kill us. And it had to be precise, because if he made a mistake, he would be killing us.
Of course.
But and he was made major for that, and he might have got a higher award. I don't know what would be interesting. I got the papers to look it up. But anyway, he saved us, and that morning we woke up, and there was all these dead soldiers, German soldiers. But he, I mean, you wouldn't think somebody in the garment industry.
I know.
But he was sharp as a tack.
Isn't that something? Yeah. Well, you saw the movie Saving Private Ryan, didn't you?
I didn't see that, but we got the DVD now, and I'm going to get that one.
Yeah.
I don't think Spud will want to see that.
Well, yeah, I would. Spud's his wife, her nickname, but yeah, I would say that you ought to have a private showing of that.
Yeah.
But the reason I brought that up is I saw it. As a matter of fact, I went back to see it twice, because the first time through, I was so taken by the accuracy and the violence of the movie. I wanted to go back and see it again to get more of the subtleties of the interaction of the actors and so forth. But it reminds me of your experience in that village because as you said, you didn't know who was the enemy and who was your friend. Somebody like the mayor could be professed to be your friend,
That's right.
and then be a turncoat on you.
Nobody was a Nazi, but I'm not a Nazi, but next door they are
Oh
Nazis.
yes.
Anyway, a lot of finger pointing.
I should say so. Oh
And-
yeah.
And you didn't know whether they were lying or telling the
know.
truth. Well,
Trying
that
to-
night, the mayor betrayed us.
Yes.
Yes.
Trying to save his skin.
Maybe, I don't think we got a good shot of this, but
This is
my nickname was Junior, so that I was known as June, and I signed all these letters, June, June, June. And our daughter Pam did a marvelous job in compiling this. This just tells the whole story.
oh, this is wonderful. This is
I
priceless.
I read this book, you know, gingerly. I just can't go back because then
Oh,
it
I
brings
know.
back memories
Of course.
of what we did.
Of course. Of course.
But one other incident, if I may interrupt.
Oh, absolutely.
When after we went online, I got a call to go back to headquarters, and I said, "Oh my, what's going on?
Of course.
What are they going to do? Did I do something wrong?" I got back there, and here was our pastor from Christ Church in Fort Thomas. He had joined as a chaplain, and he made it his duty to go over to England and Europe, and he visited every one of the soldiers he could. And he gave me a Bible, which I still have in here somewhere.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Here.
Oh my goodness.
I think that's the Bible. It says, Christmas greetings from Christ Church, Fort Thomas, Kentucky, 1944.
How about that?
And Reverend Schnocky, Alfred Schnocky, he joined the Army to be a chaplain.
Isn't
And
that?
I carried that in my pocket all through the war.
Oh my golly, I know.
And that influenced me, that I said if I ever got out alive, that I would spend my life, I would go to church.
Mm-hmm.
And Eddie Weber was from Campbell County Motors in Newport. So his father had the Chevrolet agencies, and of course Chevrolets were, any kind of car was hard to get after the war.
Absolutely.
I rode it. Eddie was 4F. He didn't make it. But I told Ed, I said, "Look, Ed, if I get out of the Army alive, I want to drive anywhere. I'm not going to walk anywhere that I can drive." And I said, "Please get me an automobile." And he followed through. And when I got out of the war and came back, Eddie had a 1945, I guess, Chevrolet.
How about that?
What do you think the price was?
Oh, about $600.
Well, you're pretty close. It was $950.
I remember those days.
Amazing.
I should say.
But anyway, Eddie came through, and I had a brand new Chevrolet that I bought with money I saved. I had to send my mother home, and about $10. We only got $50.
I know.
But I sent her $10, and I had enough money to buy a Chevrolet for $900.
Isn't that something? Well, the wonderful things that you've saved, Luck, are just priceless, and I know that your family has great appreciation of your service, your tradition, and what you and your wife have imparted to your children is so important, and you bring that up because of your religious background and your religious belief. And I know also how you have contributed here in Cincinnati, and since the war was over, as a leader in your religious community, and also your civic duties here in Cincinnati. You're a member of the Rotary Club. You've been a participant in community affairs in Westwood, and this I think Tom Brokaw brought out this kind of clearly, something about the greatest generation. Well, it's hard to say that ourselves, but not only what was done in the war, but how people deported themselves after they returned to this country. And you're a shining example of that. What about your brother Bob?
Brother Bob, he, like I say, didn't have to go to the war. He was eventually honorably discharged.
Mhm.
And Bob was a coach at Highlands High School, and he used all of my memorabilia to teach his students. And Bob died about 15 years ago
Yeah.
of cancer.
Oh, gee. Well, that's. I know you are so devoted, and that that is a very, very touching part of your life. Um, when you got the word about the end of the war, and we're talking June 1945, VE Day. Where were you on VE Day?
We were down in Reute.
That was in Austria.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And of course we had a parade. I think we went to some town and had a parade, and that's how we celebrated. Then we went back, and I had a young fellow, Benny Carino, who was in my squad, and he'd make a fish hook in these trout streams, and he would bring up trout, and we had a nice fish dinner
Oh, wow.
that night.
Oh, okay.
We had, you talk about diversification, which has been a buzzword.
Oh,
We
yeah.
had all kinds of people.
Yeah.
Manuel Shapiro from New York,
Yeah.
a real heavy set Jewish boy.
Yeah.
He and I spent one night in the ditch hugging one another just to keep warm because we didn't have enough clothes.
Right.
And Benny Quino from Philippines, and we had Italians, and we all got along together. I mean,
Absolutely.
and we had diversification before it became a buzzword here a couple of years ago.
Well, I should say, and of course that's how our country, our great country, was formed, and
That's right.
why we're still the greatest country in the world, and the greatest country that has ever been, as a matter of fact. So when you came back, you came directly home to Cincinnati.
Yes,
Came back on a train from where? New York?
New York.
Yeah, disembarked there in Manhattan. And
Well, when our division disembarked, Marlene Dietrich welcomed us home.
how about that?
And I got newspaper clippings of all that.
Aye.
And my mother saved everything.
Oh, yeah.
There was stuff that I opened last night that I had never seen before.
Isn't that amazing?
I just made it my duty to go around the house and get. There's some stuff that I haven't even found yet that I know I have.
Oh, that.
But I want to emphasize that in World War II, we lost over 300,000 men,
Yes.
and we've lost 3,000 men
Right.
in Iraq.
Yeah.
Now, a loss of any man is something very,
Very sad. Very
Yeah.
serious. Yeah.
but
Yes, the comparison. I'm getting your point, and people today don't realize. You and I have had the experiences in peacetime with so many wonderful people in our community who never served, and we understand all that sort of situation. But if you haven't served, if you haven't done something like that, you really don't understand. We're not warmongers. We're not militarists, are we, John?
No.
And we want peace, and but we protect this country,
that's right.
and that's what has to be done. So hopefully we'll be getting you and I are of the same ilk because we like to talk about this sort of thing, and particularly to young people. Are you on a personal program or a personal campaign or anything like that these days?
No, but I just read the paper. If you get the Cincinnati Post, Nick Clooney says that he and his wife, and they are well traveled, and he said they've noticed a difference in young people, and that's a good sign.
Yes.
And
I think it's beginning.
if you read Nick Clooney's column from yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, but anyway, that is a good sign to me.
Yes.
I think we're going to prevail, but we have so many illegal immigrants over here
Yes.
that are on the dole, but that we're paying for.
Oh, I know.
But we got to clear up that. And
Yes.
building a fence 500 mile, this is crazy.
It is
I
great.
mean, you got to stop them at the source. I mean, a fence, if somebody wants to get in this country bad enough, he or she's going to get in there.
You're absolutely right.
So if they build that fence, I'm going to write my Congressman Shabbat and tell him.
I know it is, and the thing is, the key word is illegal.
That's right.
That's it.
They have.
If they're illegal, they're illegal. They're breaking the law.
That's right.
That's right. So there is a way to do it properly, lawfully, and that's what we expect. That's what we expect to be done. Well, we're moving along here very well. You came back to Cincinnati, and then you went back to Oxford, huh?
I went back to Oxford and got my degree in chemical engineering and mathematics. That was my major.
Chemical engineering.
And I could hardly wait. And then Spud and I got married, and we raised 3 children. And now, David being one of them, David and Marilyn's daughter, Ann, has married a boy in Chevy Chase, Washington, and they have made us great grandparents, and his name is Douglas John.
That's a wonderful tribute.
Our granddaughter, calls him Dougie, and I says, and she's coming home this weekend. The baby's a month old, and she's coming home, and I'm going to tell her, Ann, you've got to quit calling him Dougie, because, I mean, when he's introduced, I would like him to be introduced as Douglas John.
Well,
So she's going to get a kick out of that because my mother, June.
Oh yes, I should say.
Yes.
Oh, that is family in your life has been so strong, and you've all been so supportive. And as I say, I remember your dad very fondly, and what a great character he was. I don't think I ever got to meet your mother, but what else do you have to show us there? Anything?
Well, memorabilia is from
Oh,
my father. This is from World War I.
Oh, cool. Sure.
This is a pack of you open it up and there's cotton bandages and everything
Oh
in there.
yeah, little first aid kits.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and they
Look at that.
carry that.
Look at that. World War I, 1918,
Yeah.
1917.
Here's Big John,
Yes.
my father.
Yes.
He was known as a fisherman.
Yes.
He liked to fish for bass.
That is so typical of him right there on the telephone at Remeyer Lumber
That's
Company.
right. Now
And-
he interestingly enough, he was in a machine gun unit,
How about that?
and he played football with him, and there's a picture of him, and he didn't get into combat, but he was in they go back for rest and
R&R.
yeah, R&R,
Yeah.
and
World War I.
and this was taken from Camp Sherman. There's my dad. That's where up in northern there. That's when he went into Camp Sherman when he enlisted.
Now, where's Camp Sherman?
That's up in northern Ohio.
Northern Ohio.
There's
Okay.
Big John.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he was a great guy.
This is
Tall, very, had a very commanding.
this is where he was born and raised.
Is
right.
that so?
Yes.
Is that in Clifton or somewhere?
Yeah, that's in 104 West Clifton Avenue.
I'll be darned. Well, now tell me about. Give us a little bit. We still have some time. We have 5 minutes to talk a little bit about your experience as a great leader at Miami University in Oxford, particularly in recent years. And I know about your spirit and about the Redskins.
Well, that was
give us a short.
that was a sore point. The Redskins. Our daughter-in-law Marilyn was getting her degree, her master's degree at Miami at the time, and I was so vehement about it, it was disturbing the whole family. So we had sued the university, and 15 of us sued the university. And we
This
got
was on the change of the name
on
from
the change of the name
Skins to
from
Hawks.
Redskins to Red Hawk.
Yeah.
It was
So they-
engineered by a lot of people, and we found out how it all happened. And my whole family was getting so upset that we decided to call the lawsuit off.
Mhm.
And 2 judges had turned it down in Hamilton because they were Miami grads and would have a conflict of interest.
Of course.
But they said, we want you to continue. We want to find out too.
Sure.
So if they had put it to a vote, I'm sure the alumni would have won, but they wouldn't do that.
No.
And
No.
they say alumni have nothing to do with this. I said,
Mhm.
well, you sure ask us for money.
I should say.
And I said, you don't have anything to do with this. But it was the right thing to do at the right time.
Right.
And we did it. And
Well,
I got a story for that. I know exactly what happened, how it was engineered.
mhm.
And
Have you written about that? Have you put it down on writing?
maybe I can. I'm not a great writer. I mean, I'm 84 years old, and I want to have fun the rest of my life.
Absolutely. Well, gosh, that's a very interesting story, and I know a little bit about it because I felt along with you, and we do have we have a hookup about that, but that's a story for another time. And we've been talking with John Luecke Jr. of Cincinnati Westwood, and what a wonderful, wonderful experience it's been. And we thank you so much. And it sounds trite to say thank you for your contribution, but you know it comes from the heart. And all your family who will see this, and it'll be in the archives and it'll be for history. So people will have an opportunity to see what it was like. Thank you very much, Luck.
Okay.
God bless, and we'll keep them flying.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.